Please remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mayor Dickey,
Here.
Vice Mayor LaCrone,
Present.
Councilmember Charno,
Present.
Councilmember Toles,
Here.
Councilmember Brown,
Here.
Councilmember Magazine,
Here.
Councilmember Spellich.
Present.
Thank you all. We have reports by mayor, council members, and town manager. I think Grady has something.
I do, Mayor. Mayor and council, and for the public who are here, we had a bit of good news that happened late last week. As you're aware, we have utilized Jack Lunford as our lobbyist to help us with the flight path proposal that the city of Scottsdale was considering. And we learned last week that the FAA has opted not to make any changes at this time. So it's status quo, and the status quo was actually in our favor. So in other words, the flight plan will continue to go as regularly scheduled, which would be to fly over all the open space over east of Fort McDowell. So that's really good news. Now, we did learn that the city of Scottsdale is considering their options, including the possibility of challenging that. But as far as we're concerned, no change is a good option here. And I just wanted to just put in a plug that Jack Lunsford really earned his money, did a great job of meeting with our congressional leaders and folks that were involved in this issue. So I really think that this is a case where sometimes, extra help and throughput, hiring somebody with these contacts really helped us in this situation. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else have anything to report? Mike?
Thank you, Mayor. I guess the only thing I have to report on is I know Councilman Tallis was there, myself, and the mayor. We took a tour of the new casino under construction over at Fort McDowell, and was quite the tour and quite impressive. And they're still hoping to open later this summer, this year yet. So it's going to be quite a facility, and looking forward to that opening. And some in our entourage, because there were staff members there too, had high heels on for this tour, but I wasn't one of them. But just wanted to throw it out there that maybe they were steel toe high heels. I'm not sure, but it was enjoyable.
Councilman?
Mayor and I attended the governor's breakfast. Thought that was an excellent breakfast. And the state of the economy in Arizona is thriving. There's $1 billion in the rainy day fund. It's just fantastic. There was only positive news about the economy in Arizona, so hopefully we'll see some of that success come into Fountain Hills.
Thank you. Yes, Councilman.
Just to follow up, for those who aren't aware, the budget includes quite a bit of money, resources for education, which I was pleased to see, and it's going to fully fund the 2020 commitment, among other things. So that's really very good.
Thank you. Anyone else? Thanks for mentioning the tour. It was good that we got to go to that. I wanted to mention that it was led by President Bernadine Burnett, who was reelected last Tuesday, along with Councilman Gerald Doka and newly elected Pansy Thomas to the treasurer, and we wanted to thank them and congratulate them. I signed a letter in support of the Heritage Fund per the League. The League had one of their proposals, which was last year the legislature reinstituted the Heritage Fund but didn't fund it. So this year they're asking to fund it. So the mayors signed those letters. I went to an open house of new construction at Fountain Hills Methodist Church, the Fountains Methodist Church. I went to a Scottsdale Chamber event. The one that you were talking about was a East Valley Chamber Alliance event, so that was great. We had a public meeting regarding the proposed hospital. We had staff and some of us were there, and we're still working towards that. I met with East Valley mayors and Carefree. We talked about short-term rentals and 1487, and new development. And then the Mayor's Youth Council, and Tom Lindsay is here, gave a report about Toastmasters with Al Lorenz to the students. So that was quite enlightening and gets you paranoid about all your uhs and ahs. So we got to work on that. So does anybody else have anything at all that they want to talk about? No? Thank you very much. Our next item is the recognition of Students of the Month for January 2020. I wanted to mention that Tom Lindsay, again, he himself a former educator and superintendent. He was in the 2017 leadership class, and that was his idea to do this, to bring the town and the schools together like this, and recognizing our student as valued members of our community. So, and I absolutely agreed with that. I thought that was a wonderful idea, and in fact, it's exciting that we have two items tonight on our agenda that have to do with the youth of Fountain Hills. First, I wanted to let Tom, he wanted to come on up and say a few words, and we'll hear from him, and then we'll move on with the certificates. Tom Lindsay.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to do something that probably doesn't happen often enough. I'd like to congratulate you, compliment you, and thank you for the implementation of the new Stellar Town Student of the Month program. As the mayor just said, this idea first came from when I was a member of Fountain Hills Leadership Academy, class number 2. And this was the presentation, and you saw class 4 presentations just a couple of weeks ago. So we do keep these boards. And I'm excited about this implementation for several reasons. Number one, the partnership of the town council and the school district. As it says here on the board, a strong school district equals a strong community, and a strong community equals a strong school district. I was part of one of these programs for 17 years in another community, both as a principal and a district office administrator. And the benefits that I saw and experienced was the bringing together of people who don't always come together. The parents and the children here, probably there's a very small percentage of them who have ever been to a town council meeting. So they get to know more about municipal government and the great things that you all do. Number two, there's a lot of the people who come to your town council meetings who don't have children in school anymore and aren't aware of the outstanding things that are going on in all of the schools. So this creates that bridge of communication between the town and the school district on a monthly or whatever timeline that you're able to do throughout the school year of communicating of what our students and principals are doing. So thank you to the council. Thank you to Dr. Allen and the school district. It took 2.5 years of my New England stubbornness and perseverance to keep talking, and I really would like to thank Grady for his support right from the very beginning, and make sure that the appropriate kudos are given to Angela from the town and Jeanette from the school district, because we all know that the executive secretaries are the ones who really do the work. And so they're the ones who keep this communication between the going. So congratulations to the students, because you are the very first recipients of the Stellar Town Student of the Month, and nobody else can be first. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Tom, very much. So as he said, this is for the Stellar Student of the Month. Each month throughout the school year, starting now, we are proud to be acknowledging and recognizing 2 students from each school that display good citizenship through compassion and consideration of others, following the rules, encouraging empathy, anti-bullying, and being responsible for their actions in the classroom. I'm going to say their names. I'm going to say what some of the folks said about them, and then we'll have everybody come up. First is Emily Van Orden from McDowell Mountain Elementary. Emily's school said that Emily goes above and beyond to be helpful in the art studio. She collects and puts things in their proper place without being asked. She's readily available to help others. She is kind and considerate to her classmates and her teachers. Next is Reed Keating, also from McDowell Mountain. Reed's school says, every morning Reed picks up the toys left on the playground. He's courteous, using please and thank you. He often asks if he can help other students if they are struggling. Reed's a good friend to everyone he meets. Next is Logan Robinson from the middle school. Logan's school said that Logan's a quiet presence in the classroom and a fiercely dedicated student. He's a member of the 5th grade honors math class, and he often will work beyond the bell into his lunch period to put finishing touches on a tough problem. But he's also a highly empathetic friend to other students in need, and peers can count on Logan to be there and lend a hand to help all feel heard. For a quiet kind of guy, Logan provides a loud and clear example of how to be a great all-around student and citizen of the school. Faith Shannon from the high school. Faith's school says, Faith is a very kind and hardworking student. She works well with all groups of students and is quick to offer help when needed. Her quiet leadership does not go unnoticed. Faith is a joy to have in class. She helps in the classroom hub to tutor students. And she has a sunny disposition and brings others up when they're feeling down and commits to everything that's asked of her. And last but not least, we have Luke Geiger from Fountain Hills High. Luke's school said that Luke always volunteers his help on whatever needs to be done. He's consistently a high achiever and is always a lot of fun to be around. So that's the 5 for tonight, and this evening we're proud to recognize them. I'm going to ask you to come up along with Principal Mr. Carrick is here from the middle school, and I know I saw the superintendent, and Miss Dr. Allen is going to come up. And if, Tom, you'd like to, too, we'll present these certificates to the students, and then I'm sure Bob will take a nice picture. So come on up, you guys. Stand, and I'll call out your name, so I give out the right certificate to the right person. Emily? That's you. There you go, honey. And you can stand right there. We're going to take a picture. Reed? Nice hair. Logan? Here you go. I should know. We're in the order of age. Faith? And Luke. Thank you so much, everyone. We're going to get Bob up here, and we'll shake your hand, and thank you so much for all of your work and everything, and being wonderful citizens for our community. Thank you so much. Doctor, Mr. Carrick, thank you. Where are you? There you are. Let's squeeze in a little bit. All right. We're official.
Come on, Dr. Allen.
How about this? You free? Step in front of that. Stand right.
Perfect.
Perfect. There we go.
Yay.
Okay.
All righty. Thank you so much. Thank you. You're welcome to stay, but you're free to go. Thank you. Let's see. Next item is a recognition, a proclamation for National Mentoring Month. The proclamation is down there, and I believe I'm giving it to Mr. Roger Riggert. And if you'd like to come on up, do you have anything you'd like to say?
It was so good to see the students recognized tonight. For the last 20 years, I've worked as a mentor in the local schools, and I think the mentors get as much out of us as the children that they're mentoring. And it's been a real pleasure to do that.
Thank you so much. Many years ago at the School Board Association Annual Conference, I was there as a member, and at that time, Fountain Hills students held a session on mentoring, the importance of it. My son Brian got to be part of that because the high school students were also mentoring some of the younger kids. So all the while, and since then, these adult community volunteers have been serving our children for all of these years in a very unique and effective way. So I'm going to read the proclamation from down there and be happy to get, oh yeah, thank you. Forgot about that. I have new glasses, so I have to watch my step here. All right. National Mentoring Month. Whereas across our nation, mentors steer our youth through challenging times and support their journey into adulthood. And whereas during National Mentoring Month, we honor these important individuals who unlock the potential and nurture the talent of our country. And whereas students who are being mentored are 55% more likely to be enrolled in college, 46% less likely than their peers to start using drugs, 81% more likely to participate in extracurricular activities, and 78% more likely to volunteer in their communities. And whereas coaches, community leaders, tutors, and trusted friends are working to mentor today's youth to develop tomorrow's leaders, and whereas the contribution of these engaged adults extend way beyond the lives they touch and have a lasting impact that strengthens our country and our future, whereas 81 adults are involved in the mentoring program in Fountain Hills, and 121 children in the Fountain Hills schools are being mentored. Therefore, I, Jenny Dickey, Mayor, do proclaim January 2020 as National Mentoring Month, and on behalf of the Town Council, hereby thank all of the mentors who have contributed to the lives of the young people of our town. Thank you so much. There you go. Thank you all very much. Next, we have an update on the census. Grady?
Yes, Mayor and Council, and for the public who are here tonight, as you know, 2020 is the year that the United States will be going through the census, and this happens just once every 10 years, and it's very important to cities and towns to have their residents participate in this because we do receive as we get our population properly counted, is used in formula grants and aid that come from the federal government and also from the state government. With that, I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Economic Development Analyst Jody James, who will be giving a briefing on this for the council. Jody?
Thank you, Grady. Mayor, council members, thank you very much for having me. I just want to briefly touch upon the highlights of the census campaign. You're going to start seeing quite a bit in the news, on TV, on the radio, social media, and I want to talk to you about how this translates to benefits to Fountain Hills. So the census, as you know, is required by the Constitution every 10 years. It's very, very important that we get an accurate accounting of all residents in Fountain Hills. This actually means $20 billion annually for the state of Arizona, and this is channeled to our community. Fountain Hill benefits when you complete the census, when all residents complete the census, by benefiting programs like school programs, emergency services, transportation, and so on. Oh, good. I get to. Even healthy meals for our students in schools. What to expect in the mail? This is a very high-level calendar of what you can expect. Starting mid-March, every resident will receive something in the mail. Now, this is the first year that the census is allowing the opportunity for you to respond online. So you'll now have the options to respond online, by phone, or by mail. So you've got a lot of options. And there will be plenty of folks to follow up with you if you don't. So we're going to keep an eye on who is actually responding in real time. Safety is very, very important, so I want to make sure that everyone is aware that if you go to icount2020.info, if you're concerned about safety, it will show you the exact questions. It's a very short questionnaire, so that if you do get anything fraudulent in the mail, you'll know. So this will provide information to help safeguard our residents. You can also get notified via text, via email. We know that in today's day and age, everyone wants their information in a little bit different way. So you can actually go to icount2020.info and sign up for email alerts or even text messages. Now, this is pretty exciting for our residents. There's an opportunity for our residents to sign up to actually be a census worker and get paid. These jobs are paying upwards of $19 an hour. You do it on your own time. They pay weekly, and you do it as you have the time. So this is really exciting for residents to know. You can go on to 2020census.gov/jobs and find out more about signing up to be a census worker. I'm just going to very quickly run through some of the creative that you're going to start seeing in print ads, outdoor billboards, digital. You can see that they're touching upon every market segment. Grady asked me to just touch upon briefly what our strategy is to complement what is being done regionally, statewide, and nationwide. We will not only be working with the Times for editorial, but we'll be placing some paid ads as reminders. We'll have information in the Fountain Hills newsletter, the Chamber newsletter and e-blasts, social media, e-newsletters, community outreach. I'll have a table at the expo tomorrow to interface with the community. We've got some giveaways. We'll talk about the job opportunities. And then our intention is also to reach out to churches, schools, civic groups. I will be speaking at the Rotary next week. We have a date on the calendar to speak with SAR, and we'll touch on the census. And here is my email address for anyone that wants more information. I've got a complete toolbox of information, and I strongly suggest that anyone that sees our posts, if you can share it, talk to your neighbors, get the word out, and if you would like to get more information, please email me and I'll forward that on. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Councilman?
I'm sorry, would you go back over, you said $20 billion to the state?
$20 billion to the state from federal funds. This is almost $3,000 per person in federal funding.
Is that to effectuate the census? I mean, why are we getting that money?
No, this would be like community development block grant money, federal highway funding.
Oh.
All those monies flow to each of the states that then flow on to local governments. And so it's all based on census numbers, and those are like formula grants and aid. So you really want to have your numbers be accurate so that you get your share of that money.
So does that mean we don't need any more money for roads?
It's very important to count every single individual. That means babies. That means, everyone in your household. There's some question about people that live here part-time. If there is a part-timer that is in Fountain Hills that sleeps here the majority of the time, that doesn't mean 51% of the time, but the majority of the time. Perhaps they're here 4 months and then they travel around. If they sleep here the majority of the time, even if they're from out of country, you should report on the census. This information by law is completely confidential and completely anonymous.
Any other questions? So MAG is obviously, they're putting quite a bit of money into this, and so we're part of that, and then we have our own efforts. I think I heard that Phoenix is one of the 2 sort of hubs for the jobs, and I don't know if this sounds right to you, 14,000 jobs, because they have something situated right here. So that sounded like a pretty good opportunity. In addition to funding, this will also determine if we get another 1 or 2 congresspeople. So it's just really important to fill it out and pay attention. We really appreciate what you're doing. You're just all over social media and everywhere, and just keeping everybody aware. We really appreciate it a lot.
Thank you, Mayor.
Anything else?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jody. We next are going to a presentation by the Executive Director of Fountain Hills Chamber of Commerce, Betsy Lavoie. Welcome, Betsy.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Dickey, council members, and town staff. Thank you for this opportunity to share our Fountain Hills Chamber of Commerce. I'm just going to pull out of her presentation and pull up ours. Sorry, I moved to a mat. How do I play? We have, sorry, from the beginning at slide 1. Oh, right there. Thank you, sir. So our Fountain Hills Chamber of Commerce, we are, there we go. We are run with a staff of 6. We are have 62 years of experience, chamber combined experience. I've been a Fountain Hills resident since 1978. I'm the executive director. Paige Lorenzen, I don't know if you could see that from your angle, but she is from the Flagstaff Chamber of Commerce. She's our events and marketing manager. She's also taken on the role of our Sharon Morgan, may she rest in peace. John Gibson is our newest member of our staff. He is our new member relations manager. We are thrilled to have him. He actually starts on Monday. Karen Goodwin, she's our member services manager. She's been with the chamber for 14 years. Diane Kudzillo, she's our member services coordinator. She's also been with the chamber for 15 years. And Jan Layoff is a brand new support staff person at the chamber. Thrilled to have her. She used to be a contract worker in our events department, and now she's a staff employee. We are a nonprofit organization run by a board of directors. Leanne Torkelson is our chair from SRP, a local resident here in Fountain Hills. Bill Hines is our vice chair. He owns Copperwind. The little O next to their picture denotes that they are a business owner. Audrey Wallette, she's our treasurer. She owns Little Caesars here in town, as well as 11 other Little Caesars around the valley. Christine Colley is a resident of Fountain Hills, longtime resident of Fountain Hills and owner of Fountain Events. Annette Tingy, she's from Desert Title and Tag here in Fountain Hills. Marita Kraya, the owner of Euro Pizza Cafe. Brian Horvath from Wells Fargo. Our Dr. Robert Allen from the Fountain Hills Unified School District. Suzanne Nan, longtime resident here in town and realtor. Scott Summer, owner of Pro Skill Services, longtime resident. Scott Schlossberg, again, longtime resident, owner of Farmers. Bo James from VFW, and Kimberly Widener, longtime resident. She's a CPA accountant. And so we have a great board of directors. We do have a new video I'd love to share with you. It's very brief, so don't worry that I'm playing you a video.
As a new business, we joined the chamber because we feel that it's essentially the backbone of the community.
As a franchise owner, the chamber has really propelled my growth in my business. I was able to meet many local business owners, network with them, learn all about their businesses and what propelled them to grow.
The easiest way to get the most out of a town like Fountain Hills and its surrounding area is to be involved with the #1 business civic organization that there is, and that is the Chamber of Commerce.
When you invest in your business by joining the Fountain Hills Chamber of Commerce, you're also investing in our town. We just recently celebrated an anniversary, and we're thrilled to share with you our past, our present, and our future.
45 years ago, my father started the Fountain Hills Times, right about the same time the Chamber started. Over the years, the Chamber has offered us many marketing opportunities to help our business grow.
We were a Chamber member from day one, but after 15 years in business, we decided to revamp and rebrand, and Chamber was instrumental for helping us do a grand reopening, the ribbon cutting. They helped us reach out to new customers and also educate people about what we're doing new and different.
I've only had the business 2 years and the growth has been phenomenal, and I owe a lot of that to the chamber and to the Elite Leads group that I'm a member of.
In addition to our elite leads and other networking opportunities, we also offer marketing for our members. This includes email marketing, social media marketing, advertising on our website, and being a part of our podcast, which we call Fountaincast.
And using the free marketing tool that Chamber offers, it's wonderful because you can advertise weekly on what you need to do. You have opportunities to be a sponsor of several events.
The Fountain Hills Chamber of Commerce hosts events like the Chill in the Hills, the Stroll in the Glow, the Thanksgiving Day Parade. We also have 2 large art fairs, one in February and one in November.
It's been a place that I've been able to network with other business owners. It's been a place I've been able to introduce the resort to more customers. So it's increased our visibility within the Fountain Hills community.
I think it's very important to meet other business members in the community, and frankly, it's helped propel my business growth.
For pure business, the only organization that's fully devoted to business is the Fountain Hills Chamber of Commerce.
I would definitely recommend becoming a Chamber member just for one reason, networking alone. They offer so many business opportunities.
We've been extremely satisfied. If you're a local business and you're looking to expand, we would definitely recommend joining the Chamber.
Innovative.
A friend to the community.
Advocacy.
Great for marketing.
Tech savvy.
Heart and soul of the business community.
If you're thinking about bringing your business to the next level, make sure to come and join the Fountain Hills Chamber of Commerce.
Come join the Chamber. We'd love to have you. We're proud of our new PR piece, so I wanted to share it with all of you. A lot of people don't realize here at the Chamber of Commerce that we do advocate on behalf of our business community. We have a great relationship with the town of Fountain Hills, which we're thankful for. Our collaboration with the economic development team is bar none. I'm thrilled to work with James Smith and Jody James. And our collaboration with local nonprofits and organizations is fantastic. We just joined with the River of Time Museum to create the first Chamber satellite location. And the debut of that is February 11th. This is a great collaboration also with the town. We're going to have maps of the town. We're going to have hiking trails as well as Chamber member collateral at the River of Time Museum as a satellite location for the Chamber. We do educate not only our Chamber members, but our community. We have 2 Chamber universities per month. They're always complimentary and they're always available to the community. They are led by our members and no sales are involved. It is strictly education. We also do a Fountaincast, as Paige mentioned, twice a month, every other Friday. And since we don't have a radio station here in town, this is the closest thing that we have. It is content-driven and not just member-led. It's local public policy, anything that is really affects our business climate in our community, we'd like to feature on our podcast. We do a ton of different events. I'm not going to name all of those, but those are all of our events that we host as a chamber. Our ribbon cuttings, we want to thank our town council for supporting our ribbon cuttings and attending them. I think it's fantastic that you are there, and we so appreciate you coming. The Times comes out, the social media that we put out, every single business who has had a ribbon cutting has shared with us that they have had 3 to 7 leads from that ribbon cutting, and so it helps to promote and really encourage new business. We host a 5 o'clock mixer once a month, and the next one is February 11th, shameless plug, at the River of Time Museum. It's at 5 p.m., but that is the launch of that Chamber satellite. So if you'd like to come, we'd love to have you, and of course you're invited. This is one of our favorite programs that we do at the Chamber. It's called the Lunch Mob. It is a seasonal program. It's a 6-month program from April through September. It's our effort to bring local business to local business during the downtime in the summer when the restaurants don't have as much business. We select one Chamber restaurant per month, and we mob them. We encourage our Chamber members and the community to mob them on a certain day in the month, and we just are trying to promote that business. We also have the Fountain Hills Young Community. The Fountain Hills Young Community, again, is another partnership with the town of Fountain Hills to let the world know that we do have young people who live and work in Fountain Hills, and we do that through events and social media. For example, we did a karaoke contest on a Monday in June at Georgie's Diner. Georgie told me that he has 1 or 2 tables typically on a Monday night in June. We filled his restaurant for 5 hours, standing room only, through this effort. We also host 2 fairs per year, as we mentioned. This is the current countdown as of this morning. 30 days until our next festival. We did rebrand. We are not doing the Fountain Festival of Fine Arts and Crafts and the Great Fair. They are both now just called the Fountain Festival of Fine Arts and Crafts. We did that for many reasons. A lot of people were confusing the names, for one, and two, this is location branding, using Fountain in our name as Fountain Festival of Fine Arts and Crafts. It's very specific. People know what it is. The Great Fair could be carnival rides. So we're very excited about that launch, that they're both called the Fountain Festival of Fine Arts and Crafts, one in the spring and one in the fall. This is a huge impact to our town. We have many local civic organizations who count on our festivals for their annual fundraisers, and we are proud that we can give back to our community in this way. We also host the Thanksgiving Day Parade. It is rumored that we are the only parade on Thanksgiving Day west side of the Mississippi. I'm afraid to Google it and find out that's not true. But we are proud that we've been doing that for 35 years as a chamber. The Stroll in the Glow and Chill on the Hills, also a partnership with the town, and when the mayor lights the Avenue of the Fountains for the holidays, and we provide Santa, we provide the community band, the live nativity scene, and photos with Santa for the children. We also just started the Chill in the Hills a couple of years ago. That's the ice skating rink that we provide for the children, and it's a wonderful community event. I'm excited that we have our mayor's State of the Town address coming up a week from today at the community center. It is complimentary to our community, but it did sell out at 250 seats. So if you have not registered, you will be waitlisted. So I would hope that everybody who wants to go has already registered. We are thrilled that we can offer that. We are thrilled that we can offer that for our town and through the chamber. The Chamber Gala is an annual event where we do our chamber awards for the year, and the town of Fountain Hills also does their tourism award for the year. We do a community expo. We've been doing this event for over 13 years, I believe. We are going to change it up this year. We're not going to hold it in October with the exciting announcement that the Chamber of Commerce is taking over the Oktoberfest. And so we are going to change our community expo to an event in May of 2021, and we're looking to make it more of a Founders Day for Fountain Hills with a business aspect to it. Have some live music, some food trucks, and change it up a bit. We do a Fountain Hills Connect breakfast. We had 110 people at our last quarterly breakfast. It's very well attended, and we are hoping for the elections coming up to really partner with the town and have speakers for council members and the mayor at our next two breakfasts in June and in September. And I wanted to share with you that I do have a little. Mute it? Okay, let's not do that. This is a year of celebration, correct? So we had our 30th year of incorporation, our Fountain 50 year, and it is our 45 years as a Chamber of Commerce. And so I'm very excited to present today on behalf of the Fountain Hills Chamber of Commerce to the town of Fountain Hills in celebration this one-time donation of $4,500 to the town of Fountain Hills. I do have a real check to go along with the promotional check. Jody James has it. And the reason $4,500 was because of our 45-year anniversary. We just want to thank you for your partnership with the Chamber of Commerce and for your collaboration and your work with us with all of our events, and we appreciate working with you. Thank you so much. Any questions?
Thank you. Any questions or comments from anyone? Yes, sir.
Thank you for your presentation. It was excellent. I know we all miss Sharon, but I want to say that we're very fortunate that Sharon mentored Paige. I participate in both fairs, and Paige has just done an outstanding job.
Yes, thank you so much for coming and explaining that. You are partners for us. You're partners to help our community grow. When you succeed, we succeed. I'm glad that you mentioned the state of the town, because that was one of those things that was it was an event and it was a breakfast that was had admission, and very very honored that you took that on to make it a free event so that people could come and see it. It's streamed online, but it's pretty neat to know that people can come and have a breakfast like that and be with their friends in the morning like that. So I really want to thank you for being a resource to James Smith and to Jody, James, because you're working hand in hand with them with all of our efforts to make Fountain Hills a thriving, business-friendly, youth-friendly, and all of those things that we want to be and strive for. So, and you've just been a very positive addition, believe me. So if there's anybody, yes, sir.
Oh, I just like to second that. I think Betsy's brought tremendous energy to the Chamber of Commerce, and I'm so happy that you are now in a leadership role there and driving this local first type of mentality that we really need to support the local businesses. And I think you did a great job. That video is fantastic. So I think that check is very representative of the partnership and the give and take that is necessary to work together. So I look forward to you really having tremendous success with the Chamber and helping our community grow. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, we have a presentation on Golden Eagle Park drainage improvements. Grady?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, Mayor and Council. Before you tonight is a presentation on an evaluation of some of the drainage issues that we have basically over at Golden Eagle Park. You recall back in October of 2018, we had a very devastating flood that damaged the ball fields and a lot of issues in that park as a result. Last year in September, we also had another flood, but thanks to the Public Works Department and doing some preemptive planning, we were able to minimize the damage that occurred. But what we're going to hear tonight is, as part of the evaluation, how do we address the washes and the drainage situation over at Golden Eagle Park so we don't have any future damage at that park. As you know, the park was designed to be basically a drainage solution for the neighborhoods in that area. So it did exactly what it was intended to do, but we never intended to have the ball fields ruined when we had that really devastating storm back in 2018. I'm going to turn it over to our Public Works Director, who has a few remarks before he introduces the engineers who will come before you. Mr. Weldy.
Thank you. Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council members, Mr. Miller is correct. We have faced some challenges over the last couple of years with the Golden Eagle impoundment area. I would like to note that the past few rainstorms that we've had, we made some changes in the channels and we removed the trash racks. And as a result of that, we've had a more positive effect from the flow as it goes through the park. I would like to take a few minutes to introduce these folks, but before I do, the town engineer, Mr. Harrell, just informed me prior to coming up here tonight that we have been selected by the Flood Control District for a $90,000 grant to help with the improvements to Golden Eagle Park. Included in that, we will need to have $30,000 for the town's matching funds. But this is a substantial amount of money to add to our already budgeted portion for this year. With that said, I'm going to give it a little bit of background on what I know about J.E. Fuller. I was introduced to them most recently during the Ashbrook Wash redelineation study. From that professionalism and the positive results that we have from that, in my opinion, and shared by the town engineer, they were the obvious choice to help us do the drainage study for the Golden Eagle Dam impoundment area and the 3 washes that service that. And we appreciate all of the work they've done, and we look forward to working with them in the very near future on the design process and then the eventual implementation of the improvements that will be included as part or shown as part of this. So tonight, I'm going to introduce Richard Wazowski with J.E. Fuller and also Ted Lehman with the J.E. Fuller, and they will do the presentation. Should you have any questions throughout, Feel free to ask them, and the two of them or one of them will answer your question to the best of their ability. Gentlemen?
Thank you, Justin.
You're welcome.
So the last time I was here was about 2 weeks before that event on October 2nd. And we were here talking about the Ashbrook Wash redelineation project that we were doing. So one of the really great things about that is that we were able to leverage all that information. We had done all this engineering analysis. We were able to use that to our benefit to analyze what occurred during that October 2nd, 2018 storm, and come up with a better idea about what were the primary causes of, I don't want to say failure, but of the sort of adverse effects that occurred at the park. So what we did is we discovered that the rainstorm was actually a fairly short duration but very intense 10-year level storm. So the dam is designed for a 100-year storm to impound safely a 100-year storm. So this was not nearly the design storm, but it did have a rather adverse effect. There was significant damage to the park, as Justin mentioned. And what we found through our analysis was that the important contributing factors were clogging of the outlets, so that's why they removed the trash racks recently, and that there was some deferred maintenance to the wash channels between the ball fields that contributed to a lot of the inundation that occurred in the park itself. And then coincidentally, while we were working on this analysis, we were working on the revisions to review comments that we received from Randy and Justin, and there was another event. And I actually went out and I met Randy coincidentally out at the park, and we were looking at what was happening on that particular day. And I'll show you some of the details about that later, so in case you're not aware. So this was, just as a reminder, the October 2nd storm. This is an aerial photo showing the park, and you can see the, do I have a pointer here? I guess I do. So you can see all the sediment that was deposited. These are the softball fields, and there's a big wash that comes down here. This is Bristol Wash. Here's the dam itself, and then the outlets are down here. And what you see is you can see a single large hydrograph. So there was an impoundment here that was about, I'm trying to remember now, 14 feet in depth. And what we found is that if the improvements that we're proposing had been implemented, that it would have been about 10 feet less deep for the same rainfall event. So that's one of the reasons why we want to, why we were decided to investigate and come up with some solutions to help improve things. So here's the inundation for some modeling. So that was a synthetic event. We took and we used our models that we had developed from the Ashbrook Wash study that we mentioned, and we were able to show that the models reproduced what occurred pretty accurately. So that was helpful. So we felt like we knew we could use these tools to help come up with some ideas about how we could prevent this in the future, or at least minimize the damages in the future from a similar event. And then lo and behold, while we were working on that, we had this other event. And so I took this picture standing on top of the dam, looking back at the park. And so you can see the ball field fence here, and then there's the buildings, the restrooms and so forth, and the playground back here. And you can see all of this material that's accumulated in the front of the dam. And the other part that's interesting is you see these three separate events that occurred on this day. So each of those top parts are the highest depth that was impounded. This picture was taken right around the middle one. That's when I was standing out there. And interestingly, these four events are 4 of the 5 largest events that have occurred since the monitoring of the dam began in 1996 or 97. So it was a little bit of bad luck, but I think it also exposed some things that just didn't know about because we hadn't had these kind of events since then. So what did we do? Justin and Randy gave us some ideas that they had about what we might consider, and we examined those and we refined them and then we tested them. So this is a summary document, a map that shows the proposed improvements conceptually. So on the north here we have Ashbrook Wash, in the middle we have Bristol Wash, and then on the south here we have Cloudburst Wash. And the black lines represent some kind of grading improvements to get rid of some of the sediment had accumulated and improve what we call conveyance. It's engineering terminology for moving the water through, to convey the water through like a conveyor belt. We have 3 small sediment basins, so area for some of this material to accumulate and then be collected and dug out after storm events. And we found that clogging of the outlets was really an important contributor to what happened here. So in addition to modifying the trash racks, we also are proposing at the end of each of these sediment basins and then down near the outlets these bollards. We're calling them bollards. They're basically like you see these steel poles in the middle of a sidewalk to prevent somebody from driving onto a bicycle path or something like that. The same idea, but having these things staggered out. We think that having them 3 or 4 feet in height can help catch some of that material that was entangled onto the outlets that caused it to back up more than it would have otherwise had that material not gotten stuck on the outlet pipes. In addition, there's some other local improvements to help with the cleanup at the outlets themselves. Down here at the dam, we're proposing a concrete apron so that they can get the equipment in there. One of the problems that they had was it was wet and so muddy that they couldn't actually get the equipment in there. So there was some risk that was added to the park by having this period of time where you're hoping that it doesn't rain again so that you can let it dry out a little bit so you can actually get the equipment in there and take that material out and be ready for the next storm. So that's another element. In order to accommodate some of the excavation of these channels to get them back to the way they were back in 1994 or whenever the park improvements were started, is we're going to need to regrade 3 of the concrete sidewalks across the channel, so 2 on Bristol Wash and then another one down here on Cloudburst Wash. And that's just to accommodate, the sidewalks are sort of contributing to the accumulation of dirt in those channels. And then there's also a couple of local improvements here along Golden Eagle Boulevard where there are some catch basins that overflowed and contributed to some additional erosion and some impacts at the park that we're going to take the opportunity here to include as part of these improvements. And then finally, a little bit unrelated, but something that we examined as part of this analysis was if you've ever been out, and then there's a path that goes along the Ashbrook Wash here just to the east or west of Golden Eagle Boulevard, there's some significant erosion that's occurring there. There's massive degradation that's occurring out of a small diameter culvert that passes underneath the sidewalk right in this vicinity. So we're proposing some grade control solutions in there, and I'm going to show you some of the cost estimates associated with these elements. So those are all of the pieces that are going into these drainage, this bundle of drainage improvements to help improve performance of these washes and the dam during these more routine events like the 10-year event. So that's our design level, is the 10-year event. So for the park itself, for all of those pieces, the sediment basins, the bollards, the concrete apron, the grading, there's a couple of the catch basins for the roadway. We've come up with an estimate of about a little under $900,000 to perform all of those construction measures, including the design and construction measures. And then for the grade control structures to prevent the erosion that's occurring on the Ashbrook Wash upstream of Golden Eagle Boulevard, we're looking at about another $600,000. It's a pretty big structure. There's some buildings that are, some homes that are up there on the north side of the wash that eventually could be subject to some risk because of the erosion of the embankment down below. So just to show you how smart Richard is, I want to show you this video that shows how, so this is the park again, and what you see here is an animation of the same storm that caused the event in October of 2nd of 2018 with the proposed improvements. And what you can see is that very little of the park, the ball fields are inundated. There's a little bit of inundation that occurs right in the bottom right here, this little blue, but the darker colors are the deeper, faster flows, and the bluer colors are the slightly less. So what you see is the flood coming in as the blues, and then as it turns into the, let's play it again. So the blues, as the flow comes in, it starts to turn lighter blue and then yellow and orange, and then it subsides. So this is with the improvements, and we think this is a really excellent demonstration of not only the use of the data and the tools that were collected as part of the Ashbrook Wash study, but also explicitly demonstrates how we think that the proposed improvements that Richard and I have put together will affect a positive outcome and protect the park during these types of events. Now, I want to make sure that everybody recognizes, and Grady alluded to it, Justin alluded to it, this is a flood control dam. So during larger events, there will be impacts. It's just that we hope that they'll occur less frequently, and so therefore that some of these major costs associated with the cleanup that you had in 2018 and then again this last fall will be avoided, and so there'll be some, hopefully, fewer costs in the long run. So any questions?
Thank you. Questions? Yes, Councilman.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'm looking at the second set of improvements, 602,000.
This
like
one, yes, sir.
the Gabion baskets. You're proposing 1,800 of those?
There's about a 25-foot drop off there, so we have to do something to get the flows out of that culvert down to the bottom safely and then protect it. And so it's currently, if you go up there, it's about a 20-foot deep arroyo essentially that's been cut into this very fine-grained material. So if you go and look at it, it's just like clay. It's very subject to erosion. It's highly erodible. The only reason it doesn't erode more often is because we don't get that much rain. But yeah, it's a big deal.
So it's more of an area than it is the number of baskets, right? It's like
both.
Okay.
It's a big drop, so it's a lot of elevation loss, and then the distance is like several hundred feet. That between, basically, we're saying we want to take it from the sidewalk all the way down to the roadway culvert. That we need to protect that entire area.
So those aren't the bollards that you were talking about? They're not?
There are some potential other material types, but they're all expensive. Gabion baskets, they need to be heavy and strong, so you can't just throw riprap in there. If you go out and look, there's a lot of riprap that's already been placed there, and it just rolls downhill. And because of the nature of that fine-grained material underneath it, it just sort of sucks it right out of there. So you need to either line the channel with geotextile material, and then you can put rocks on it. That's an option. Gabion baskets are another option. Soil cement could be another option. We think that the Gabion baskets, we've done some designs in Tucson where we've used this effectively at the outlet of some culverts where similar things were happening. But the advantage we think is that because of the tight areas in the construction that it might be easier to do. But this is something that will be fine as part of final design if and when we get approved to do that.
Is the council familiar with the term gabions? It looks like a wire mesh and it has a rusticated look, but then there's riprap or something that it's holding back behind there.
So it's like a fenced-in box with rocks in it. So you make a big mass out of smaller pieces because big rocks are expensive and hard to move.
We have some decorative gabion elements on the avenue in the park there. So when you walk, you'll see that there. So it's very nice versus the shotcrete or the concrete looking appearance that in the old days, 20, 30 years ago, that's what they were doing and flood control district was.
The disadvantages is that the wire can corrode eventually, and then there's some maintenance associated with the baskets themselves. With that wire basket needs to be repaired or replaced.
Yeah, I guess that just jumped out at me because it's like $360, basically half of the, more than half of the. So on the other chart, you're showing the bollards, I guess, and so it says quantity 92. So is there,
yeah, so we're saying staggered every 3 feet. So they're like a W, but because of the widths, it adds up.
Would that be in all the washes then, or just the bigger one, or?
So what we're showing here is, and all of these may or may not be needed, but we're showing every opportunity we have at the bottom of each sediment basin, and then at the bottom where the two washes come towards the outlet. So we want to sort of catch it as many times as we can because we're not really sure of the efficacy of these things. This has been suggested in other places, but I'm not sure how well tested it is.
So I guess maybe Grady or staff, I don't know, as far as the maintenance issue, I mean, we have a storm event and then we have to go out and clean this stuff up, and there's 92 bollards out. I mean, is this something staff-wise we're going to be able to, accommodate in terms of keeping up, or?
Yeah, I'll let Justin address that, but my take on this is that at least it's catching things rather than causing erosion and other damage to the washes that we've experienced the last couple of major storms. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Weldy to answer your question.
Madam Mayor, council member, the intent of these bollard structures is to stop the larger debris. So these would be the larger branches and trees and stuff like that, not the fines. So we currently have these at several of our other dams, and at those locations we have had a very positive experience, and it allows us a little bit more time to come in there since we typically don't have events that frequently. And what we do is we concentrate on the areas based on our knowledge and experience that we need to address. So the idea is, yes, we would attempt to address them to the best of our ability up front, and then we would have to make determinations based on the type of event and the intensity of the event to whether or not we would need outside help.
Councilman?
The cost woke me up.
It's non-trivial.
I'm sorry?
It's non-trivial.
No, it's not trivial.
But you spent almost that amount cleaning up the park in 2018.
Well, you're talking, as I see, $1.5 million, 900,000 and 600,000.
Yeah, if you include the grade control structure, which isn't really related to the damages at the park. This is sort of a separate issue.
But it's still real money.
Still real money.
You said about 900,000 and about 600,000. The word "about" got my attention.
These are conceptual cost estimates, so we don't have engineering plans and we don't have bids that have been provided by contractors. So these are engineering estimates based on conceptual designs. So at a 15 or 30% engineering design level, it's always an about thing. So there are contingency numbers that are included, and they're relatively large, 30%. As the design would be refined, and the specifics on these, exactly how many bollards, exactly how high, exactly how many gabion baskets, how much volume, all those kinds of things, then the contingency number would come down, and the cost number would be refined. It could go up, it could go down.
If you were pushed real hard to indicate what you would not do in this complex project or put off, what would it be?
What would we not do? I think from our analyses, the sediment basins are probably the least important piece.
I'm sorry, the what basin?
The sediment basins, so the small excavated areas, here, here, and here, but they're not a big cost item. The big cost items are the concrete. So concrete's expensive. Where is it? I can see it here. It's number 8. Oh, no, sorry. Number 7, right. Thank you. So we've talked already with Justin and Randy about the idea of refining the footprint of that area to see what's absolutely necessary, but it's still a relatively large area. The size of the park is relatively large. These things are, fairly large, and so when you get large, you have larger quantities and costs increase.
Thank you.
Councilman?
Thank you. So we would need a separate full-blown engineering study to get to a point where we could go out to bid, or not?
So this evaluation is the study. What we would need is to have the final design on this. So right now, they went up to, was it a 30, what was your percentage that we're looking at?
I would say I would call this 15%.
15%.
So we don't have specific quantities we've estimated. We don't have, one of the key missing pieces here is we don't have new topography. The topography we're working with was flown prior to the 2018 flood. Between the floods, the 2 floods now, and all the work that's been done, we don't really know what the ground looks like. So the quantities associated with excavation in particular, so there's a $56,000 item in there for excavation. We don't know if that's the right number or not because we don't know what the ground looks like. So that's a very first step, is we need to get an accurate picture of what the ground looks like. And then from that we can build plans that we can provide to a contractor so that we know we're getting real quantities that they can provide accurate bids upon.
So the contract we have right now with Fuller, does that include all that work, or is that something extra that we have to?
This would be extra. This right here is the evaluation, which was the preliminary look at this issue, which we knew we needed to do and started to move. We've put together a capital improvement project just for this. I believe we're splitting it into 2 as it's presented to you tonight. And we could look at even further reducing it. But as part of this, going forward, if this were approved as a project or 2 projects, we would also have, as part of that, the engineering of this would also be, which is, they've put those numbers in here, what the anticipated engineering costs would be. So the outside engineer would come up with the design concept as to what this would be really going to cost us as part of that project.
Right, so using the new topography, so we need to pay for the new topography, obtain it, and then produce plan sets that says this is specifically what we're going to do. It's going to be this wide, this deep, this slope at these specific locations. From those proposals, then the quantities would be extracted, and those would go into a bid with costs that would be relevant to 2020 or 2021, whenever that construction would be. anticipated.
So we actually probably saved a step here on the preliminary aspect of this, and that is because Jay Fuller had already worked on Ashbrook Wash and was familiar with our town, so they were able to use a lot of the modeling that they had done, which saved us some money and also some time.
Absolutely.
So are you looking for direction tonight then on splitting the projects and then the budget numbers and what we have in the budget, or are we looking at 2020, 21, or I guess I wasn't clear from the
Well, we're going to be coming.
report.
We're going to be coming back to you. The issue is, we wanted to get them. We were trying to get this scheduled last fall, and we weren't able to get this meeting scheduled until tonight. So we wanted to give you a good heads up, and then as we get into the capital budget, which will be scheduled, I believe, in March, this is giving you a heads up. We also at the time didn't realize that we had the panorama issue that we're trying to figure out, which is coincidentally very close to what this total is here. So we're not happy about that, but want to just give you an understanding that we're addressing this issue, and in my opinion, I think we're going to have to at least program this into the capital budget and phase it if we need to. So, Mr. Weldy, did you have anything else to add on that?
I do not, sir. Grady, could this be part of a bond package? And could it be discussed at the retreat?
Absolutely. In fact, it could be, and also part of this, as you heard earlier, that there was $90,000 that the Flood Control District of Maricopa County has come up with. So yes, it could be.
And could we have it on the agenda for the retreat?
Yes, we could.
Councilman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, I've learned that tonight, every time we talk to you, bad things happen to the town, so we might want to talk to somebody else. And then the other thing is this like the Cadillac fix for this? Is this like, is there a plan B that we have that we would be able to analyze as a council, that you would be able to give us direction on possibly a plan B that would be less expensive, or is it just this much money?
Madam Mayor, council member, this is not really a Cadillac or an old broke down car. This is right down the middle, factual. This will minimize the potential damage in the future. So we really don't look at the high end or the low end. We will start looking at that as part of the design. This is the concept where they went out, they did all of the legwork, and now we know what changes are recommended. There are some things in here that we could either eliminate or reduce the quantities or the sizes that will bring the price down somewhat. But this is truly, we don't define it as a Cadillac or otherwise. This is what's needed. Now, as part of the design, they will be submitting plans to us in percentages, and when we get to a certain percentage, then we will be talking amongst ourselves and with the town manager, who will be communicating with you on what we think is needed and necessary and what we can get by with. But the idea is to reduce or minimize the impact from severe events. The typical events we believe that we'll be able to address, but there are other unknown or unusual events that are going to cause ponding and or backwatering in this area, undoubtedly.
And this will be a multi-year project. So, for instance, what we'd probably recommend is go ahead and put the engineering analysis in to finish up the engineering on this in next year's capital. So as you can see, we're talking, some significant dollars, but still not the $1.5 million. And then we'll have a better idea as to what that project or what both projects will actually cost. And so we'll be able to then next year at this time be able to tell you probably with certainty as to what the true cost is going to be on this.
And then I guess my follow-up question would be is how many residents, how many homes are involved in the possibility of damage happening, and are the residents that are in those homes aware that there's a problem?
Are you referencing the upstream homes in the Ashbrook Wash portion?
During the presentation, the gentleman alluded to the fact that there was homes that would be affected by the damage, or if water was.
There will be 6 to 8 homes on that stretch there. I'd have to go look at the aerial photographs to be sure, but we might be able to count them here. So you can see that, actually it's more like 4, I guess. They're right here. So if I'm looking at this aerial photo, it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4 that are particularly at risk.
Have they suffered damage in the past?
No, this is all, if that erosion continues, that bank gets steeper and steeper, and then potentially their backyards start to fall into the water.
Mike, did you have something else?
I did. It just slipped my mind, but well, I've ridden my mountain bike down that sidewalk that goes along that wash, so I know exactly what you're talking about, and you know, been underneath the tunnel that goes underneath Golden Eagle. So, gosh darn it, I can't remember right now.
Okay. Aaron, if we are able to get the stormwater fee back in place, would all of this be eligible for that to be used for it? Like, because I know it was it's not just for capital, it can be for anything.
Environmental fee. As far as I know, any restrictions that are imposed by town, there aren't any restrictions on. Thank you, Mayor, Council, I appreciate that. Assuming that goes back into effect, I'm not aware that there would be restrictions that would apply to this use.
Thank you.
Yeah, I finally remembered, Mayor. Thank you. Well, I think one of the biggest things that struck me reading through this is that the October 2018 event was a 10-year event. I mean, I can't imagine a 50-year or 100-year event after what I saw, you know, that day and the resulting damage. And I'm just wondering, with the trash racks being removed and the washes being kind of graded out. And I know we had the subsequent events in September of last year. So if we had another 10-year event like that 2018, it probably wouldn't be as severe, right? Since we've done those corrections at least.
That's correct. And in fact, the September event would have been worse had it not been for the changes. I don't know, I want to call them improvements, that they were changes. So there was some grading of the channels. There was some sediment that had been moved out of the way. And particularly along Bristol Wash, there was some of this sediment basin concept here and here had actually been created. It wasn't sort of as intentional, but it had been created by the grading that had been done after the October event. And then there was also some significant amount of grading that had been done in this area to lower the entire area. So prior to the October event, there were some big trees in there, and the entire area was about 3 or 4 feet higher than it was after the event and prior to the September 2019 event. So all of those things resulted in less damage from a very similar event, in spite of the fact that there were 3 hydrographs on that same day. So I think there is some encouraging news that sort of helps reinforce the idea that these concepts have a possibility of minimizing damages from similar events in the future. I would like to emphasize, though, that none of this is maintenance-free. All of this includes an ongoing maintenance cost, and I just want to reemphasize that the October event was at least partially as damaging as it was because of deferred maintenance that had not occurred in the past. So since, as far as we could tell, there really hadn't been much grading that had been done to the channels prior to that October 2018 event. And it was partly because of that lack of work that had not been done in 20 years that that event was so bad. So what we found was that by implementing the original designs with some additional things like the bollards and the apron and a few other pieces that we talked about, that this probably wouldn't have happened during either of these events. But since it hadn't, there were these damages. Now, the erosion that occurred because of the overflows of the roadway and stuff, those are sort of unrelated issues. But as far as the sediment that got into the ballparks, and what we found in that October event was that water broke out right here out of Bristol Wash and came straight across the ball fields. And that was because of the constriction in Bristol Wash because of the sediment that had accumulated there over the years.
Yeah, it even broke the fencing right there.
It did.
You know? So it's fair to say we've kind of bought ourselves some time by the changes or improvements that we've done since the October event, and I mean, we don't have to.
I would say a caveat. I would agree with that, but I personally am not aware of what you guys have done since the September event.
I would just like to tell you, and Justin, you might want to come up, those were what I would very much characterize as makeshift. They were not ever permanent, and we were really sweating out getting another storm because they did the job, but then the energy with those storms was actually moving and causing some of that erosion to what we had already fixed in a makeshift kind of fashion. So what we're looking at is looking at basically making those much more stronger, reinforced, so that we don't have to redo those channels again. And I think that's what we're looking at, is a little bit more permanent fix here, so we can kind of stop the sediment from flowing into the park and get that controlled. That's what the engineer was saying is absolutely right. The deferred maintenance of allowing that sediment to flow into the park and build up, was it 3 feet you were saying, or what was the height over time?
And it was also piled up, so there had been some grading, like to move this, excuse me, there had been some grading that had been done to move sediment off of the sidewalks, but that was just piled up on the sides. And so the wash had gotten narrower and narrower and narrower. And then even the sediment that was removed after the October event, it was left in the park. So it helped improve the drainage, but it was pretty unsightly. I don't know if you had been on that path that you were talking about underneath the culvert. In between those two events, there's big piles of sand that were still there and big rocks and stuff that had just been kind of pushed out of the way.
Justin, did you want to just kind of address? I think it was great, and the staff did a really good job getting that all kind of corrected and trying to rechannelize that, and they removed all that extra sediment and debris that had built up over the 20 years. But you want to explain what you did and what your thoughts were on that?
The changes that we made, thank you. The changes that we made to the 3 washes and the impoundment area were simply based on a reactive measure. We reacted to what we saw, and so we built, the town, we built larger, wider, deeper channels, and we created more storage on the face of the dam. And later on, of course, we removed the trash racks, which allows for this material to go through. And then of recent, and I've not had a chance to speak to the J.E. Fuller Group, we have experienced some incredible head cutting at the face of the dam as a result of removing these trash racks. And what I mean by head cutting is the dirt is piled up and the bottom of the pipe is here. These nuisance storms, as of recent, have begun to erode that down, so we have more defined channels in 2 of the areas. However, all of the stuff that we did was temporary, and some of it was erased by the September event. We simply have not had an opportunity to go back in and remove the amount of material that we initially removed after the October event. We certainly have funding in there, and we're working towards a plan, but we really, really need a design so we're not recreating or overdoing what is necessary to minimize the impact in the future.
I guess I'm, just trying to get a feel up here about the urgency of this in terms of the timing. Do we need this within a year or 5 years? What are the chances of getting another storm like that, 10-year? I mean, that's kind of what we have to weigh, and who knows, right? So that's, it's the risk you take.
Thank you. And this is not a blaming exercise or anything like that. What it does illustrate, though, what happens when you're operating as we have been for so many years, trying to do the best we can with the funding and the staffing and all of those things. And sometimes when people ask about it, it's not such an easy thing to articulate, like what didn't we do? But this is an example, and probably the sinkhole is going to be an example of the kind of things where we have folks coming to councils and mayors for all these years with things that they say need to be done, and the bodies can't find the money to do it. So we'll move forward here, see what we get recommended to us when we talk about this. And we really appreciate the information, and we appreciate all the work that Rachel and all of you did to make that park usable again. And we'll just move forward. Facts are facts. Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you. Next is a call to the public. Do we have any speaker cards? Yes. Okay, thank you.
We have one from Walt Franklin.
Thank you, Walt. Hi.
Mayor and Constable, I know you can't comment on anything that's not on the agenda. On the way over here, and I might be behind the curve on this, on the way over, I vaguely remembered seeing something in the paper about a proposal to change the mayor term limit to 4 years. Is that a done deal? Oh, so it's to be decided?
Answer?
It's
It'll
to
be
be
on the
decided?
ballot.
That's all I'm asking.
Can you answer?
Mayor, members of council, that was, as the council will recall, an ordinance that was adopted, I believe, 2 council meetings ago for referral to the voters of the town of Fountain Hills to
Okay,
decide.
so it is a done deal. It's going on the ballot. Okay, I'm behind the curve. I'm disappointed in that. I understand the incentive has nothing to do with our lovely mayor at this point, and I'm sure that she will win re-election.
It's not a
But
done deal, though.
yeah.
It's not a done deal. It's going to the public.
Going to the voters.
The public is going to vote.
I understand that.
Oh, okay.
I understand that, right. My only comment is, second term of a 4-year mayor would be 8 years. That's an awfully long time for a small town. Lots of changes, lots of people changes, lots of circumstantial changes, and obviously we've never had one that long before. So I'm disappointed that you've made that choice. I would support a 3-year term for the entire council to encourage less money being spent on elections. But I think 2 terms at 8 years is an awful long time. But what's done is done. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speaker cards? No? We have our consent agenda. Does anybody want anything taken off, or do I have a motion?
Move approval.
Can I get a second? Second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Liz. We have a regular agenda item, which is about development fees. Grady?
Yes, David Poxton come up and do a presentation on this, but I just wanted to just speak out and explain for those that might not understand development impact fees. The idea behind development impact fees is that new development, new residents coming in, buying homes, or new commercial that might be built in town, the idea is that growth pays for growth, and that your existing residents and businesses who are here are not paying for infrastructure costs due to the need for putting in additional infrastructure. So with that, the town does have development impact fees. My understanding is under law, state law, every 10 years we're required to do an update to our current fees, and every 5 years you do like a refresh of what your fees are. So we started this process, how long ago, David?
197 days.
197 days ago.
Not that I counted, not that I figured
And
that
I forgot to tell you this.
You've enjoyed every minute of it, I can tell.
And I forgot to tell you, David's picked up some of Craig's humor as well. But under state law, it also specifies the process that you have to go through. And I believe from beginning to end, from the time you start to the time that you have the fees adopted and actually go into effect, it's a 270-day process. So as you heard, we're at like 197 days already.
Getting close.
With that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Mr. Pock, who will go into a little bit more presentation on this topic.
All right. Good evening, Mayor, members of council. Just wanted to do a brief overview of where we've been in that 197 days. It actually started in July 8th when we did a public notice and published the report that was done by Tischler Weiss. That was a 60-day notice. That entire time, the report was available on our website, and there was a notice published in the Fountain Hills Times as well. We held that first public hearing on September 17th, and we introduced the land use assumptions and the infrastructure improvement plan. That was kind of a first look, invited public comment, that sort of thing. Based on those comments and comments from the council, we went back with Tischler Weiss and actually revised some of the projects that were included in the development fee report. And we brought that back to you on November 5th. At that time, that was adopted, the revised report was adopted by the council. A couple days after that, we did another public notice of a public hearing. November 8th was when we published the notice in the new report, or the revised report. December 17th, we held that public hearing. At that time, there wasn't any comments from the public or council, and that brings us to tonight. So tonight is consideration of Resolution 2020-03, which adopts the fees that were basically determined by the land use assumptions in the infrastructure improvement plan. If that resolution is adopted by council tonight, then the fees would go into effect on April 5th. And then I just put together a slide. This was actually a slide that I took from Tischler Weiss from their last presentation, showing the current fees and the proposed fees. The new single-family residential fee would be $3,974. That includes the fire, parks, and street fee. Multifamily would be $2,537. And then for non-residential, there's actually 4 separate fees that you can see there. The most common, or the one that we anticipate the most collection from, would be commercial at $2.86 per square foot. And that's all I have for you tonight, unless you have questions.
Any questions?
I just have a couple comments. So what is different this time around versus in the past? We do have a street impact fee. We didn't have that in the past. We are also, the land use assumption and infrastructure plan is not planning for Fire Station 3, because that was all predicated on state trust land developing and having a third station up in the state trust land area. So there is a fire fee, but it's only for the apparatus costs for the future as a result of impacts of people. With that, we'd be happy to answer any questions the council may have.
Councilman?
Thank you. So with some of the upcoming projects that are commercial in nature, would the fees be assessed at time of permit, or
It's my understanding that it would be at yes, when they go to pull permits. So for instance, Keystone's one, I believe, that's actually inquired about when these would take effect, and they'd pull their permits prior to April 5th so that they would be under the old fee schedule, the current fee schedule.
And the residential apartment complex that's going to be on the ballot, they wouldn't have the ability to pull a permit prior to that, so the fees to them would be,
the
it would appear at 24 cents, would go to $3.82 per square foot. So that's a substantial difference.
Yes.
Yeah. Have you calculated what that is based on that project?
Not on that project, no. I don't have that.
Would, no part of that would be commercial? I thought they had,
Multifamily residential is multifamily.
Would,
So the
no.
part that might, and I don't have that quite figured out yet, but the part that would be the senior living, I think might be potentially commercial, and it's an institutional type use. So.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you. Can I get a motion, please?
I'll move that we adopt Resolution 2020-03.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor of adopting Resolution 2020-03, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Thank you, David. I forgot to ask if there were any speaker cards. No. Okay, thank you. Jeez. Next is the consideration of, let's see, entertainment district overlay having more dense residential density. Grady?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is a more or less a housekeeping item that the Development Services Director, John Wesley, wanted to get your approval of and consideration and approval. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Mr. Wesley to explain.
Thank you. Mayor and Council, good evening. Hopefully this is a fairly straightforward item. Back in 2016, the town added to the zoning ordinance, Chapter 25, the Entertainment Overlay District. The purpose at that time was to equalize some of the allowances for noise that could happen in the downtown area. TCC district allowed for more noise event type activities than the C2, C3 zoning in the Plat 208 area. The council approved that amendment to or addition to the zoning ordinance. In 2017, with that in place, and with some thoughts that it would be beneficial to facilitate mixed-use residential development in that town center area, staff came back to the council and asked for an amendment to that chapter of the zoning ordinance to allow for mixed-use projects, to allow single and multi-residence projects on second and third floors above a ground floor non-residential use, but set a density cap at 8 units per acre. Where they came up with 8 units per acre, I really couldn't understand from the record, but it was a reasonable number. We have since, over the last 6 months, had a couple of people come into our front counter proposing what appear to be fairly nice mixed-use projects for the town center area. They both exceeded 8 units per acre, and so we couldn't just process them by right as a site plan in that area. So with that in mind, we looked at options for how we could address that to give the developments an opportunity to proceed through the review process. After we looked at the different options, my recommendation and proposal is that we amend the ordinance by allowing higher density, but through a special use permit process rather than by right. The reason primarily being because of the joint parking facilities in the area and events that come up, parking could become an issue, and depending upon exactly where the developments would occur. So we felt like it would be good to have specific review of the proposals, bring those to council, and make sure that we feel like we wouldn't be creating type of parking issues, and if not, then be able to allow that higher density above 8 units per acre. So that's the proposal, is that we add a section, subsection in Chapter 25 to allow those applications to take place.
Great, thank you. Any questions? Councilman?
I do have a question, thank you. So help me understand the difference between requesting a special use and just making this in general an accepted policy.
So that would be another way to write the code, Councilmember, and we consider that, and we could sure go back and do it that way. If we just set it by right and say either not put a cap on density or say you can do up to 10 or 12 or 15 units per acre, whatever we wanted to say, we could do that. Again, the staff's concern with doing that was primarily parking issues in given locations that may be an issue. And so I thought it'd be good to have that public review.
Thank you. Councilman?
Yes, I probably should have emailed this question earlier, but like Park Place, generally how much density that is? Like get an idea of.
Mayor, Councilmember, I'm afraid I did not think to go back and look at it. It's certainly more dense than 8 units per acre.
Yeah.
Exactly what it turned out to be, I'm afraid I don't know.
I was just trying to get a feel for what else is being proposed out there in terms of.
Mayor and Councilmember, in the Plat 208 area, which is primarily what we're talking about, most of those lots are pretty small, so it really doesn't take very many units to get over 8 units per acre. Just really very few will get you there.
Any other questions or comments? Any speaker cards? Would someone like to please make a motion?
Move to adopt ordinance 220-01.
A second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Motion passes unanimously.
Another job.
Thank you, John.
Well done, John.
Yep. Our last regular agenda item is about legislative bulletins, any item related to the League of Cities and Towns. They had their first legislative call today, and I don't know if we're all on that, but if you want to be, you can get the notes. So they'll send you notes. They talked about various items today, but nothing that, I think we heard that from the governor. So some good things and some things we need to keep an eye on. But I don't have anything specific at this point.
I'd just like to remind the council, if you see through the legislative bulletin, or if you see a particular bill that you have concerns about, please let us know and we can do a little bit more research, and then we'll have it ready to be able to discuss at a council meeting. So that's this item between now and the time that the the legislature recesses, we'll continue to have this on every agenda. So it may be some meetings you don't have any items to discuss, some you may have a lot of discussion, so.
Yeah. Well, and again, if you can't get on the call because you're working and all, they do put notes together and email them to us, so, thank you. Council discussion direction to the town manager. Any follow-up or anything you want to know? Thank you. Please, and can I have a motion to adjourn then?
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Thank you very much.